Was a cold Thursday evening in Chicago. The kind of cold that sneaks into your bones and makes everything feel heavier than it already is. Emma stood at the bus stop, clutching her worn-out coat, staring at the ground as if it held answers she couldn't find anywhere else. She had just lost her job, her rent was overdue, and her phone had died hours ago. But none of that hurt as much as the quiet realization that she felt completely alone. And just when she thought no one was looking, someone was. Before we begin, if you believe stories can change the way we see the world, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this channel bring more stories like this to life. Now, let's continue. Emma had always believed in kindness. She was the kind of person who held doors open, smiled at strangers, and tipped more than she could afford. But life had a way of testing even the softest hearts. 3 months earlier, Emma worked at a small bookstore downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. She loved recommending novels, chatting with regular customers, and losing herself between dusty shelves. Then one morning, the owner called everyone in and announced the store was closing. Online sales had taken over. There was no way to keep the business alive. Just like that, Emma's world shifted. At first, she stayed hopeful. She sent out resumes, attended interviews, and told herself something better was coming. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Rejection emails piled up. Her savings disappeared. Calls from landlords became more frequent and more urgent. And the worst part? The silence. Friends who once filled her weekends were suddenly too busy. Text messages went unanswered. Even her family, miles away, could only offer sympathy over the phone. That's how Emma ended up at that bus stop, feeling invisible in a city full of millions. The wind picked up, biting at her cheeks. She pulled her coat tighter, trying to hold herself together literally and emotionally. A tear slipped down her face before she could stop it. "Hey, are you okay?" The voice startled her. Emma looked up to see an older man standing a few feet away. He wore a thick jacket and a knitted cap, his face lined with age but softened by concern. "I'm fine," she said quickly, wiping her face. "Just cold." The man nodded slowly, as if he didn't quite believe her but didn't want to push. "Cold will do that to you," he replied gently. They stood in silence for a moment. Then, without another word, the man removed his gloves and handed them to her. Emma blinked. "Oh, no, I can't take these." "Sure you can," he said with a small smile. "I've got another pair at home. These will keep your hands warm." She hesitated, her pride battling her need. Finally, she accepted them. "Thank you." "You're welcome," he said. "Name's Walter." "Emma." "Nice to meet you, Emma." The bus still hadn't come. Minutes stretched longer. Emma glanced at Walter, unsure why he hadn't left. "Do you take this bus often?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said. "Mostly when I feel like talking to someone new." Emma almost laughed. "Talking to strangers?" "Strangers are just friends we haven't met long enough yet," Walter replied. There was something about the way he said it, simple, but full of truth, that made Emma pause. Walter noticed her silence. "Rough day?" he asked gently. Emma sighed. "More like a rough few months." She didn't know why, but the words started spilling out. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the loneliness. Or maybe it was the way Walter listened, really listened without interrupting or judging. She told him about losing her job, about the failed interviews, about the rent she couldn't pay. She even admitted the part she hadn't said out loud before, that she felt like she didn't matter anymore. Walter didn't rush to fix anything. He didn't offer empty advice. He just nodded and let her speak. When she finished, he said quietly, "You know, I've been there." Emma looked at him, surprised. You have? Oh, yes, he said. A long time ago. Lost my job, my home, even my family for a while. I thought I'd never get back up. What changed? Walter smiled. Someone showed me kindness when I didn't deserve it, or at least, when I didn't think I did. Emma frowned slightly. What did they do? They listened, he said. Just like this. And then they helped me believe that things could get better, even when I couldn't see it myself. Emma looked down at the gloves in her hands. They were warm now. I don't know if things will get better, she admitted. Walter leaned in slightly. They will. Not all at once. Not in some big, dramatic way. But in small steps. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one person, to start that change. The bus finally arrived. As the doors opened, Emma turned to Walter. Thank you, she said, her voice softer now. For everything. Walter nodded. Take care of yourself, Emma. She stepped onto the bus and found a seat by the window. As it pulled away, she looked back. Walter was still standing there, hands in his pockets, watching the bus disappear into the night. The next morning, Emma woke up feeling different. Her problems hadn't magically disappeared. The rent was still due. The job search was still uncertain. But something inside her had shifted. Hope. It was small. Fragile. But it was there. She put on the gloves Walter had given her and stepped outside. Instead of going straight home after dropping off another resume, she stopped at a small coffee shop. As she stood in line, she noticed the woman in front of her digging through her purse, looking stressed. I think I forgot my wallet, the woman muttered. Without thinking too much about it, Emma stepped forward. I've got it, she said. The woman turned, surprised. Oh, no, you don't have to. I want to, Emma said with a smile. It wasn't much. Just a cup of coffee and a pastry. But the woman's face lit up like it meant everything. Thank you, she said. You have no idea how much I needed this today. Emma nodded. Actually, I think I do. She walked out of the shop with a warm drink in her hands and a warmer feeling in her chest. Over the next few days, Emma kept noticing little opportunities to be kind. Holding the door for someone. Helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries. Leaving a note of encouragement on a community board. Each act was small. Almost invisible. But together, they began to change something bigger. They changed her. A week later, Emma received a call. Hi, is this Emma? A voice asked. Yes, it is. This is Sarah from Lakeside Publishing. We received your application last month. Are you still available for an interview? Emma's heart skipped. Yes. Absolutely. The interview went well, better than she expected. And a few days later, she got the job. It wasn't just any job. It was a position helping manage a small publishing team surrounded by books, stories, and people who cared about them just as much as she did. On her first day, Emma walked to the same bus stop where she had met Walter. She looked around, hoping to see him. But he wasn't there. Still, she smiled. Because she realized something important. Walter didn't just help her that night. He reminded her of who she was and who she could still be. Weeks turned into months. Emma settled into her new job, made new friends, and slowly rebuilt her life. But she never forgot that cold evening or the stranger who chose kindness when she needed it most. So she made a promise to herself. Whenever she saw someone struggling, she would stop. She would listen. She would care. Because sometimes, kindness isn't about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's just about being there. And maybe that's the point of this story. You never know what someone else is going through. The person standing next to you in line, the neighbor you pass every day, the stranger at the bus stop. They might be fighting battles you can't see. But a simple act of kindness, a smile, a conversation, a helping hand can change everything. Just like it did for Emma. Just like it might for someone else. Or even for you. So today, choose kindness. Not because it's easy. Not because it's expected. But because it matters. Because in a world that can sometimes feel cold and distant, your kindness might be the warmth someone needs to keep going.